The sky above Veltrax was always red now. The storms had taken away the blue long ago. The once beautiful cities of the Veltraxan people were now broken ruins, filled with hunger and silence. The rivers had dried up. The air was thick with heat. And food was a distant memory for many. Sa'ari, a Veltraxan mother, walked slowly through the empty marketplace. Her long tail dragged behind her, weak from days without proper rest. She had sold almost everything she owned, her tools, her clothes, even the memory gem that held her family's history. Nothing was enough. Nothing could feed her child. Behind her, wrapped in a faded cloth, her small hatchling whimpered quietly. His name was Luan. Only a few weeks old, he had already lost too much weight. His scales, once bright green, had faded to a sickly gray. Sa'ari held him close to her chest, whispering words of comfort that even she no longer believed. They had gone from shelter to shelter. Most were full. Some refused her because she had no currency. Others had no food at all. She had tried everything, begging, working, even scavenging in the wastelands. Nothing worked. That morning, she made the hardest decision of her life. To the edge of the city, a sign flashed in several alien languages. It read, "Interstellar Labor Exchange. Open contracts available." Inside the station, aliens from different worlds waited behind metal bars. Each had a tag around their neck. Buyers walked by, looking for strong hands and fast workers. Sa'ari stepped forward, holding Luan close. Her voice was quiet but clear. "I wish to sell myself." The robot at the front desk turned its round eyes toward her. "State your reason. My child is starving," she said simply. The robot gave her a form. "You will be entered into the auction tomorrow. Payment will be sent to the receiver of your choice." Sa'ari looked down at her hatchling. "He will go to the human relief center. They give food, medicine, safety." The robot nodded. "Your contract will last 3 cycles. Buyer may extend if both parties agree." She signed her name. Her hand trembled. The next day, the auction hall was loud with voices, screens, and flashing lights. Aliens stood behind glass displays, trying to appear strong or skilled. Some looked proud. Some looked broken. Sa'ari stood still. Her body was thin, but her eyes were sharp. She held her back straight even though her heart felt heavy. A voice called her number. Next, subject V4382, species, Veltraxan, status, single mother, skills, basic language, survival, navigation, starting bid, 300 credits. Lights turned toward her. She saw the faces of buyers, merchants, miners, and traders. Most looked bored, some looked cruel. Then one voice spoke calmly. 100 credits. Everyone turned to see who had spoken. He was a tall human, wearing a simple gray jacket and dark boots. His face was lined, his eyes steady. A small silver pin on his chest marked him as a space diplomat. "Do I hear 600? The auctioneer asked. Silence. "Sold, to Commander Elias Mercer of Earth." Backstage, Sa'ari held her child close as she was led to the human's ship. The Odyssey Dawn was large but quiet. Its design was smooth, shaped like the wings of a bird. The inside was clean and warm. A female crew member met her at the airlock. "Welcome aboard. Follow me, please." Sa'ari expected a cold room, maybe chains, maybe orders. Instead, she was shown to a small but comfortable cabin. The bed was soft. There was a crib already prepared. Food waited on a table, real food, not powder or paste. Elias entered the room with a soft knock. "You can rest here," he said. "Eat. Feed your child. No one will hurt you." Sa'ari stared at him. "You paid for me. What do you want me to do?" "Nothing," Elias said. "I didn't buy you to use you. I bought your freedom." She didn't understand. "Then why?" Elias sat down on the edge of the bed, not too close. "Because I saw a mother willing to give up everything for her child. That kind of strength deserves a second chance." Sa'ari blinked. This human made no sense. Other buyers would have put her to work right away. They would have expected her to earn every credit. But this man gave her food, shelter, and safety for nothing. You can stay as long as you like, he continued. Or leave when you're ready. Your child is already on the list for the Earth-led refugee center. He'll be safe there, and so will you. For a long time, Sa'ari said nothing. Her fingers shook as she reached for the warm soup on the table. Her child drank slowly, his strength slowly returning. Why would a human do this? She whispered. We were told you were dangerous, that humans fight more than they help. Elias smiled gently. Sometimes we do, but not always. Sometimes we choose something else. That night, Sa'ari sat by the window in her cabin. Outside, the stars blinked in silence. Luan slept peacefully in his crib for the first time in days. She watched the human ship glide through space, thinking about the man who had changed everything. She had sold herself to save her child, but the human who bought her had chosen love instead. The next morning, soft light entered Sa'ari's cabin through a small window. She blinked awake, surprised that she had slept without fear. It had been many nights since she'd felt safe enough to rest deeply. Little Luan lay curled up in the warm crib, breathing calmly. His color was returning and his body looked less fragile. She leaned close and kissed his small forehead. You're going to be okay, she whispered. A quiet knock came at the door. Yes, she said softly. The door slid open and Commander Elias Mercer stood there holding a small tray. Breakfast, he said with a gentle smile. I wasn't sure what your kind eats, but the ship's kitchen has a translator. He set the tray down and stepped back respectfully. Sa'ari stared at the food, fruit cubes, bread, and warm tea. You bring me food again? You don't have to. I want to, Elias said. You and your child need strength. Sa'ari looked down, unsure what to say. In her world, kindness from strangers usually had a price. But this human continued to help without asking for anything. Thank you, she said quietly, picking up a piece of fruit. It was sweet and soft. Luan reached out for some too, and she gently fed him with her fingers. Elias stood there a moment, longer. If you feel strong enough today, would you like to see the rest of the ship? Sa'ari hesitated, but then gave a small nod. Yes. The Odyssey Dawn was larger than she thought. As Elias led her through the hall, she noticed how everything was well organized and clean. The crew walked past them with smiles and friendly nods. No one stared at her. No one looked angry or disgusted. They treated her like any other guest. This is the medical bay, Elias said, pointing to a bright room filled with strange machines. And here's the garden, hydroponics lab actually. We grow food here. They stepped inside. Green plants of many shapes grew in rows under warm lights. Flowers bloomed beside vegetables. Sa'ari's eyes widened in wonder. On Veltrax, nothing had grown for years. This is beautiful, she whispered. Elias smiled. Some say it's the heart of the ship. Life, growing even in space. She gently touched a leaf. It felt cool and alive beneath her fingers. Luan giggled in her arms as a vine tickled his cheek. Do your people all live like this, she asked. Not all, Elias admitted. But many of us try to make things better. After the wars on Earth, we learned how important peace is. They continued walking. Elias showed her the engine room, the command bridge, and the crew's dining hall. She even saw other aliens working beside humans, side by side, like equals. How is this possible, she asked. Different species, working together? We learn from each other, Elias said. Some humans fear aliens, some aliens fear humans. But when we talk, share food, help each other, things change. Later, they returned to her cabin. Sa'ari placed Luan in the crib and sat quietly on the bed. You don't act like the humans I was warned about, she said at last. Elias sat across from her, his eyes kind. What were you told? That humans are wild, that you fight for power, that you only care about your own kind. Elias nodded slowly. Some humans are like that, but many are not. I've met aliens who are kind. I've met humans who are cruel. It's not the species, it's the person. Sa'ari looked at him, her thoughts heavy. On my world, asking for help is seen as weakness. Giving help even more so. That's why your world is suffering, Elias said gently. You need each other, but no one wants to be first to reach out. She looked down. His words, cut deep, but they were true. I don't know how to live like this, she said softly. You don't have to know right away, Elias said. You've done the hardest thing already. You survived. The next day, Elias arranged a communication link to the Earth-led refugee center on Zeta Prime, a human colony known for peacekeeping and aid missions. A kind-looking woman with brown skin and silver hair appeared on the screen. We've received your request, Commander Mercer, she said. We'll make room for the child and his mother. Sa'ari's heart skipped. So Luan will be safe? The woman smiled warmly. Yes, he'll get food, medicine, and schooling, and you will have a place there as well if you want it. Tears welled up in Sa'ari's eyes. Thank you. You're not alone anymore, the woman said before the call ended. That night, Sa'ari stood by the ship's viewing glass, looking at the stars. Luan slept behind her, wrapped in a blanket, warm and full. Elias came and stood beside her. You saved us, she said without turning. No, he replied. You saved yourself. I just gave you a door to walk through. Sa'ari turned to face him. Why did you choose me at the auction? He paused for a moment. I saw a mother willing to give her life for her child. That told me more than any file or skill report ever could. She studied his face. Do humans often act from the heart? Sometimes, Elias said, and sometimes we get it wrong. But when we care deeply. Sa'ari smiled, a rare expression on her face. You are strange. I'll take that as a compliment, Elias chuckled. They stood there quietly, watching the stars. No orders, no fear, just peace. Days passed. Sa'ari grew stronger. Luan became more playful. The ship felt less like a cage and more like a home. She spoke with the crew, learned human customs, and even began helping in the garden lab. Elias checked in often but never pushed her. He treated her with respect as if her past did not define her. Slowly, a bond began to grow between them, not of duty or debt but of trust. One evening, Sa'ari placed her hand on Elias's arm. Thank him. You, for showing me that not all is lost. Elias placed his hand gently over hers. You're not lost. You're just beginning. The stars outside the Odyssey dawn moved slowly. The ship flew in deep space now, far from the broken world of Veltrax and closer to the peaceful colony of Zeta Prime, where safety waited. But peace was not yet inside Sa'ari's heart. She stood, in the ship's garden room, her fingers brushing over green leaves. The plants calmed her, but her thoughts were heavy. It had been 10 days since Elias brought her on board. 10 days of safety, 10 days of kindness. Still, part of her didn't believe it would last. Luan sat in a soft chair beside the plants, playing with a learning cube the human crew gave him. His scales had returned to their bright green. He laughed now, a sound that warmed her chest. Sa'ari touched her necklace, the only thing she had kept from her past. It held her family symbol, the mark of her people. But now it felt strange around her neck. She was no longer the same Veltraxan mother who had sold herself at the auction. That night, Sa'ari sat in her cabin, writing in her memory journal. Veltraxans shared their life stories this way. Short, entries carved into crystal chips. She held one of the crystals in her hand, ready to write a message to her sister, who still lived on Veltrax. Before she could begin, the ship's alert system made a soft sound. Incoming message for Sa'ari from Veltrax High Council. She froze. The High Council? Why would they send a message to her? She tapped the screen. The message appeared, and the face of a Veltraxan official filled the screen. His eyes were sharp, his voice cold. Sa'ari, we have learned of your current location. Reports say you were purchased by a human, Commander Elias Mercer. This action has caused great anger among our leaders. Sa'ari's claws tightened. You are ordered to return to Veltrax at once, or to report to the nearest Veltraxan outpost. If you do not, you will be marked as a traitor. However, if you help us, if you tell the truth about what the human did, how he used you, we will forgive your dishonor. You must claim he forced you into servitude. That will save your name, and ours. The message ended. Sa'ari stared at the screen. Her heart pounded. They wanted her to lie. They wanted her to destroy the only person who had helped her, just to protect their pride. The next morning, Elias found her in the observation room, standing alone. "You're quiet today," he said. Sa'ari turned to him slowly. "I received a message from the High Council of Veltrax." Elias didn't speak. He waited, giving her space to continue. "They want me to say that you forced me, that you are guilty. If I do, they will protect my name." Elias looked at her gently. "And if you don't? I will be banished, labeled a liar. I will lose all honor among my people." There was silence between them. Even the stars seemed to pause. "You don't have to decide today," Elias said. "You are free, truly free. That means you choose your path, not them, not me." Sa'ari sat down, her tail curled tightly around her feet. "My whole life I followed duty, rules. I was taught that feelings are weakness, that love is a distraction, but then I met you." Elias sat beside her. "You're not weak, Sa'ari. You're strong. You survived when others gave up." "I don't know who I am anymore," she whispered. "Not truly Veltraxan, not human, just lost in the middle." He looked at her gently. "Maybe that's where something new begins." Later that day, the ship entered the Alari Belt, a dangerous part of space filled with hidden pirate ships. The crew stayed alert, scanning every signal. In the control room, Sa'ari stood beside Elias as warning lights flashed. "We've got company," said Chief Marn, a human woman with sharp eyes. 3 small crafts approaching, not sending ID codes. "Pirates," Elias muttered. The ship shook slightly as one of the crafts fired a small warning blast. Elias turned to Sa'ari. "Take Luan to the lower decks, stay with the emergency crew." "No," Sa'ari said firmly. "I want to help." He looked at her, surprised. "I've traveled these regions before. I know their tricks. I can guide you." Elias nodded. "Then let's work together." As the pirates moved closer, Sa'ari used her knowledge of hidden asteroid paths to help the Odyssey Dawn avoid traps. The ship weaved between rocks, staying just out of range. Then one pirate ship landed on the cargo bay with magnetic clamps. "They're boarding," someone shouted. Elias grabbed a stun rifle and handed another to Sa'ari. "You've handled one of these before?" She nodded. "I've done worse." Together, they moved toward the cargo bay. The doors opened and 4 pirates stepped out, armed and loud. Sa'ari and Elias stood their ground. "Leave now," Elias warned. "We don't want to fight." One of the pirates laughed. "We don't care what you want." The fight began. Blasts of light flew across the room. Sa'ari moved fast, protecting Elias's side. Her movements were sharp and smooth, trained, yet fierce. Luan's face flashed in her mind. She would not let these raiders take her future. In minutes, the pirates were stunned and locked down. Elias wiped sweat from his brow. "You were amazing," Sa'ari smiled, her chest rising and falling. "So were you." That night, after the danger passed, the crew held a small celebration in the dining hall. Music played from a soft speaker. Laughter filled the air. Sa'ari sat beside Elias at a quiet table, Luan on her lap, happily chewing fruit. "You protected us all," Elias said. "Not just today, but from the moment you stepped on this ship." Sa'ari looked at him, her heart steady for the first time. "I will not lie to my people. I will not betray you. You don't have to choose between your people and yourself," Elias said. "You are your people. But you are also Something more. Sa'ari touched his hand. I want to stay, she said. Not because I owe you, not because I'm afraid, but because I feel safe here. Free. Elias squeezed her hand gently. Then stay, as long as you want. For the first time, the walls between them were gone. The Odyssey Dawn glided silently through space, its silver body glowing under distant stars. Inside, life moved forward. The threat of pirates had passed, and peace had returned. For now. Sa'ari stood in the garden lab again, carefully placing small seeds into soft soil. The greenhouses had become her favorite place on the ship. Here, new life grew with care, light, and time. In a way, it reminded her of herself. Commander Elias Mercer entered quietly and watched her from the doorway. She wore a simple jumpsuit like the rest of the crew now. Her long tail wrapped gently behind her, and her eyes no longer held fear. Instead, they held something warmer. Hope. You're getting good at that, Elias said. Sa'ari smiled without looking up. Plants are easy. You give them what they need and they grow. No lies, no games, just growth. People aren't always that simple, Elias said, walking toward her. She looked at him now. No, but some try to be better. Luan came running in, his small legs moving quickly. Mama, look, I made this. He held up a drawing, a rough image of her, Elias, and himself, standing on green ground under a blue sky. Sa'ari knelt and took the drawing. It's beautiful, she said softly, tears touching her voice. Elias crouched beside them. That looks like Zeta Prime, he said, pointing to the green hills and the small dome buildings in the picture. Sa'ari nodded. He talks about it every day now. We'll be there soon, Elias said. 4 more days. She looked at the drawing again. It showed a future that never existed before. But maybe it could. That evening, Elias called a private meeting in his quarters. Sa'ari joined him, leaving Luan in the care of a kind nurse from the medical bay. When she entered, the room was quiet and soft-lit. Elias sat by the wide window, looking at a slow-turning planet far below. I received another message today, he said without turning. From Zeta Prime. Sa'ari sat across from him. Is something wrong? He shook his head. No. In fact, it's good news. They have a home ready for you and Luan. It's small but peaceful, near the school. And the medical center. Her hands folded in her lap. That sounds perfect. Elias hesitated. But I also have a question to ask you. She raised her eyes. What is it? He took a breath. You don't belong to me, I know that. I never owned you, but I care about you. Not because I saved you, not because of pity, but because I see who you are. Brave, loyal, strong. Sa'ari's chest tightened. Elias continued. You have every right to go live your life with Luan on Zeta Prime. You've earned it. But if you want to stay with me, not as someone I rescued, but as someone I walk beside. He paused. Then I would be honored. Sa'ari didn't speak for a long time. Her heart beat hard in her chest. She thought about her past, cold nights, pain, shame, and fear. Then she thought about her present, soft beds, food, Luan laughing, and a human man who asked for nothing but offered everything. She stood and walked to the window, the stars reflected in her eyes. I don't know what love means to humans, she said softly. It means you are never alone again, Elias said. No matter what comes. She turned to him. Then I think I want that. Over the next few days, news of Sa'ari's decision spread through the crew. Many smiled and offered warm words. A few were surprised. Some whispered doubts. Human and alien love still felt strange to some. But Sa'ari didn't care anymore. She had made her choice. Not for safety, not for comfort, but because her heart had found peace. Luan was the happiest of all. He walked beside Elias now, proudly calling him Captain Uncle, though sometimes he just called him Papa by accident. Elias never corrected him. 2 days before arriving at Zeta Prime, Sa'ari received another message, this one from her sister on Veltrax. The message was short. I heard what you chose. You gave up your name, your rank, everything. For a human. I don't understand you, but I see your smile. I see your child's eyes. And I think, maybe you found something better than honor. I will protect your memory here, sister. Be free. Tears filled Sa'ari's eyes as she closed the message. Her past had not been erased, but it no longer controlled her. Finally, the Odyssey Dawn reached Zeta Prime. From space, the colony looked peaceful. Green forests covered the land. White domes of glass and steel rose among trees. The air was clean. The sun was warm. And above all, there was no war. Elias stood on the bridge as the ship docked. Sa'ari stood beside him, holding Luan's hand. We're home, Elias said quietly. Sa'ari nodded. Yes. Home. On the surface, they stepped onto soft ground. The wind blew gently through tall grasses. Flowers of red and gold waved in. Welcome. A welcoming team approached them, smiling. We're honored to receive you, Sa'ari of Veltrax. And you, Commander Mercer, said the leader, a calm woman with green eyes. We have your house ready. Sa'ari looked at Elias. He smiled back. Later they stood outside the small home together. It was simple, a round dome with wide windows and a garden already growing outside. Inside it had a soft bed, a kitchen, and a nursery. It's more than I ever dreamed, Sa'ari whispered. You deserve more than dreams, Elias said. That night, Luan slept peacefully in his room. Sa'ari and Elias sat on the porch under the stars. No fear, no walls, just peace. Sa'ari leaned her head on Elias's shoulder. I sold myself to feed my son, she said. But what I bought was a future. Elias put his arm around her. And I bought a stranger, but I found a family. They sat in silence, together. The sun of Zeta Prime rose softly above the green hills, touching the quiet colony with golden light. Birds flew in the bright sky. The land was peaceful, gentle, and full of life. Inside a small home at the edge of the forest, Sa'ari stood by the window, watching Luan chase small glowing insects in the garden. His laugh echoed through the trees. A smile spread across her face. She touched the window glass with one hand and whispered, Thank you. Behind her, Elias entered the room with 2 hot cups. Morning tea, he said, handing her one. Thank you, she said, taking the cup with both hands. They stood in silence, side by side, watching the child they both loved. Time passed slowly here, in a way that felt good. Safe. Free. I used to think my story ended the day I was sold, Sa'ari said softly, but I was wrong. That was just the beginning. Elias nodded. Sometimes the worst moments lead us to the best ones. As the weeks passed, Sa'ari settled into her new life on Zeta Prime. The colony accepted her gently. Some people were curious about her, but none were unkind. She worked in the local greenhouse, growing food and teaching others about Veltraxan plants. Her knowledge impressed the scientists, and soon, she was offered a leadership role. Luan started school and made friends. He returned each day with stories, questions, and new words in both human and Veltraxan languages. He drew pictures of his family, always with Elias and Sa'ari holding hands. Elias continued to work with the local defense team, offering guidance to young officers. But more than anything, he loved coming home each evening to laughter, warm food, and the quiet peace of their new family. Still, change was never far away. One afternoon, as Sa'ari worked in the greenhouse, a message came through her communicator. It was marked urgent and came from a Veltraxan shuttle nearby. She hesitated before answering, but she had learned to face the past, not fear it. The face of her sister appeared on the screen. Sa'ari, she said, her voice careful. I bring news, something important. Sa'ari nodded slowly. Go on. There is change on Veltrax. The old High Council is falling. The people have grown tired of silence, of pride, of lies. A new group is rising, leaders who want peace. They speak of you, of your choice. Why me? Sa'ari asked, surprised. You became a symbol, her sister said. Not of shame, of courage, of a mother who chose love over fear, truth over power. They want you to return, to speak, to help shape a better future. Sa'ari looked away. The plants in the greenhouse swayed under the artificial light. My life is here now. I understand, her sister said, but perhaps your voice is needed in both places. The screen went dark. That night, Sa'ari sat outside with Elias under the stars. Luan slept inside, curled with his blanket. She told Elias everything. He listened quietly, then asked, "What do you want to do?" "I don't know," she admitted. "Part of me wants to help my people, to see Veltrax grow into something better. But the other part, I'm afraid." "Afraid of going back?" Elias asked. She shook her head. "Afraid of losing what I've found here." Elias turned to her. "Then don't go alone." She looked up at him. "We can go together, for a short time. Help them, speak to them, and then come back home." "Back here?" He nodded. "Home is where we choose to build our future. And for me, that's with you, wherever that may be." A few days later, they boarded a small transport ship. Luan held Elias's hand tightly, wide-eyed and excited. "Are we going to see the stars again?" he asked. "Yes," Sa'ari smiled. "But this time not to escape. This time, to share." As the ship lifted from Zeta Prime, Sa'ari looked down at the green land below, her heart calm. She wasn't running anymore. She was returning, not in chains, not in shame, but with her head high. She was going as a voice of truth. Veltrax had changed. The sky was still dark with silver clouds, and the buildings still stood tall and sharp. But something in the air was different, softer, less cold. The new council met them with respect. Sa'ari was invited to speak at a gathering of thousands. Her speech was simple but powerful. "I am Sa'ari, daughter of the stars, mother of a child and once a servant of a broken system. I was cast away for choosing life over law, love over silence, but I return not in anger, but in hope." She looked out at the crowd, some alien, some human, all listening. "We can build something better, together, not through fear, but through truth, through kindness, through family." The crowd stood in silence, then broke into cheers. Over the next weeks, Sa'ari helped create new agreements between humans and Veltraxans. A trade program was started. A school for both races opened, and Elias was asked to help train a peaceful defense group. But they didn't stay forever. After 3 months, they returned to Zeta Prime, where their house waited and the garden had grown. Luan ran through the flowers, his laughter full of joy. Sa'ari and Elias stood at the door watching. "You did more than save me," she said. "You gave me back to myself." Elias touched her hand. "And you gave me something I didn't know I was missing." She smiled. "What?" He leaned in. "A reason to stay." They stood under the sunset, two souls from different worlds, now joined as one. In time, Sa'ari wrote her story into a book. It was called The Roots of the Sky. It became a symbol of peace and love between two species. But more than that, it was the story of a mother who gave everything to save her child, and the human who gave everything back by choosing love instead. The end.